Okay. Well, then I want to back up and do it again. Let me delete it. So you're gonna need in order to do this, you're gonna need an NN19 or an NNXT. In this instance, I have an NNXT open here, even though it's called it started off as an NN19, which is why it says NN19 instead. And then if you go to create other RPG8 monophonic arpeggiator, and then copy maybe one of these lines, and you're going to drop it into the arpeggiator itself. So you'll paste it, copy, paste, drag it down to the arpeggiator, and then the solo of the arpeggiator. It'll start off too fast because it's in 16th note, so we'll change it to like 8th. Or you could put it in triplet. Or you could take it to quarter note. And then, sorry, I'll turn this up a little bit. You can also from here, you could tell it to jump up the octave. You could do 3 octaves, but I think it's out of its range. So if you were to try to do 3 octaves, you'd have to go down an octave shift the first note by 12 steps, basically 1 octave down. Should roll this time. That makes sense? So let's see where we're at with this when we put it in with everybody else. So it sounds like, because it's jumping between this part and this part. Let me throw this part in there too then. It sounds like it's missing that in-between stage, and it's this one. Let me mute this.
See, when it was on my computer, it wasn't all spaced out like that. Like when I exported it, it was just bar after bar, so I couldn't do that with it.
Oh, it was like one solid bar.
So I guess the trick is to.
Well, what happened is,
export it and import it back.
when I threw it to Pro Tools, it somehow it reassigned it that way, and it came back that way.
That's like the life hack right there.
Right.
That's kind of convenient to just drag it up. Can't do that.
But now you hear there's some fun, now there's some movement down in the cello. And it's all created by the arpeggiator. It really is only playing just one note still. So what we do is we go, if we like that, and we go, oh yeah, we want to use that. We go back to the rack. And then basically what we'll tell it is we'll tell it to copy its pattern to track. Or in this instance, it's arpeggio notes to track. But down in the sequencer, so let's get a hold of that sequencer. It dumps it in its own lane. So see how it did that? Here, we'll leave the light. Sorry.
Yeah, I've learned that in the Reasons class before.
So when you copy that arpeggiated section to the track, what you'll do is this won't be playable through the arpeggiator. It's literally note for note what the arpeggiator is being played based upon what notes are the one single notes that you gave it. So what you have to do is dump it back on the original track that it was playing, that the arpeggiator is connected to, and mute the arpeggiator. And then the beautiful part about this, the reason I suggest that, because when you're dealing with things where you're sitting there going, man, there's just not enough movement. I don't like the fact that there's not enough going on. What you can do is you could literally go in and just say, all right, well, let me copy paste that, and let's throw that to somebody else. So maybe let's put that in the viola 2 part. Actually, let me get rid of just for now, I'm going to get rid of the viola 2 part. let's take that up to the viola 2 part, and obviously it's not going to be in the right octave, so we'll go back to the tool window, we'll take it up an octave, we may have to take it up 2 even, go ahead and hit apply, sorry, and give it a whirl. The only difference is, I'm sorry, that because the way that I loaded this, it's going to be different for you. Plus, because on your original version of the song, you already put these on the NXT, where I have them on these little crappy patches. So let me actually go ahead and change this real quick because it doesn't sound great. Let's see. Let's change this device to an NXT. I'll have to take the place of. Sorry, I'm gonna literally have it take the place of this device here. If I can. Oh, you know what? I'm not gonna be able to do it that way because it's attached to the track. So hold on, let me go back to the front and let's find that patch in Orchestra Sound Bank. We're in viola land, so we can take. I think I'm going to take this particular sound, go back to the sequencer, and drop it here instead. Down. This is our new viola 2. Now, again, in the same way, we could take this arpeggiator and say, all right, well, let's go try something else with somebody else. So let's take, oops, sorry, I have something else selected, I think. Let's go take the arpeggiator and apply it to maybe violin 1. And we'll have to rewire it in the rack. So not only am I going to move it there, oops, I'm also going to go to the rack itself. And I'm going to move the arpeggiator up to, like I said, violin 1. And what's going to happen is, because the arpeggiator doesn't, yeah, it won't relink, and specifically it won't, well, actually, it actually won't even work on this device because of the fact that there's no CV input-output on it. So when I move this up here, I'm actually going to have to replace violin 1 with something else. So let me go in here into strings and go back to violins. I'll take Arco. And then now I can attach the CV gate. So it's the output CV gate to the sequencer control gate and the note CV gate to the part that says CV. And now, whatever gets run on that channel, sorry, I think it's still solo. So let me see. Oh no, it's in the off beats, isn't it? Is that what it is? Oh no, it is. So what has to happen here, I'm going to get rid of what was already in the ARP lane. Get rid of this extra lane, so there's only one in the ARP lane. And this was, sorry, I think as I moved some stuff, it kind of went a little nuts. This should be the, oh, it's the cello part. Yeah, this is that new lower cello. I think when I dragged it, it moved it all. So this ARP essentially is attached to violin 1, so I just need to take the data from violin 1 and throw it down here into the ARP and solo both really, so I can hear what's going on. Now, you might not like that, so you might just say, you know what, instead of having it jump, there's a couple other things you can do. You can tell the arpeggiator to go up and down. Maybe we do 2 octaves instead. Or maybe we'll go faster. Might be too fast for the rest of the sequence. Let's see where we're at with this then. All right, so actually from what I hear, what if we do this and we say copy, paste, and we go in and we fill all the gaps and then we run that. So I basically just doubled what's being played. I think instead you really almost could tell it. All right, so you know this works out okay, but what if we wanted to actually just do something unique? We could literally go in and try something. And again, these are single notes. So now I'm actually playing two notes at the same time. So if we find something inside of the chord, because we're using the arpeggiator, it's getting us that up and down, up and down. So let's see where we are. Oh, sorry, wrong key. All right, I think I'm gonna try that. This is a 4-note, so it's B flat lower octave, D, F, and B flat upper octave. So when they play together, they do this. Which kind of sounds a little awkward by itself, but when you put it in with everything, so let's just, I'll give a click and a pre so you can see how I'd run this. I'm just gonna re-record this back onto the ARP track. Oh, no, this thing, so. Oh wait, I keep doing that. Wrong button. I mean, technically, you're just gonna sustain it, unless you want to change it. Turn it back down so it's not so crazy. So, you know, you're seeing how, like, essentially you could roll it out. The other thing you could do, too, is anytime it's like, man, we need the movement, but we don't need all the notes, you could instead do single note, and instead of doing all that, you could literally go in and just tell the arpeggiator to just, to not use any octaves. And then you could just do something like a, something more like that, and I think you don't end up needing a. No, I think you can get away with just leaving it. And more importantly, when you go down the octave, you know, that way, if you really wanted to try something like that, you could. So this is a two-note. Let me go one more step we could do if you wanted to do single notes and you take it back to quarter. And then if you make the sound a little tighter, like let's say you did something like hits. Or staccatos. Staccatos, yeah. Yeah, you could use something like that. I mean, even with what's already in there, it helps. It'll help it kind of be a little more realistic. So let's see if we open this one back up from one. And then you can always change the rate in the post. Changing the octave gives it a little more, you know. Again, if it's too notey, you just take it down to an octave, and then you can take the timing down. Now, if you don't want every note to play, you can also give it that pattern. And you could say, you know what, let's skip. So anyway, you have those options there to run with. And then when you're done and you're happy, you're going to go back and go arpeggio notes to track. And then with your sequencer, you could just dump those. So this is your arpeggio notes to track, and you're going to just drop it right on the main track so that one plays instead of using the arpeggiator from there. And that way you can, what you get to do with that, and what the huge benefit of that is then if you go back to your arp, let's say we look at this and we like it. But let's just say we love this, but we want, I'm just going to hit M to mute the original one that we just jumped in there. Maybe you really are like, I like it, but I also like the quarter notes, so maybe I want to use the quarter notes for part of the phrase. So then what you can do is, if you start it over again, and maybe you only do one octave on this, you'll do the same thing, arpeggio note to track, and you'll notice that when you do that, you'll have yet another sequence here. And what you get to do with it is you can interweave, the use of it in between on here. So I'm going to unmute this one now. So this one's a quarter note, and this one's your eighth note. And what you could do is, if you were listening to it going, you know what, I like the movement on the first 2 bars, second 2 bars, or every 2 bars, I want to use the quarter note phrase. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this up in 2-bar groups. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the quarter note phrase that I like and drop it over top, just the end of each of those phrases. So that when we're done, the result is a combination of the eighth and the quarter.
So you don't have to delete space when it goes over something?
No, yeah, you can just... Unfortunately, no. The only thing you can do is bounce the mixer channels, which I don't like. It just took that option away. Oh, because this is a demo song. This is a demo. It's in demo mode. But you would be able to do export or bounce mixer channels, and it would bounce each of the individual channels that are listed here in the mixer, but it won't give you can't change anything about them other than their volume or processing them. So like it'd almost be like live tracking into Pro Tools, where you can't go back after the fact and make a change to the instrument sound when you bounce those out. But yeah, you can't just import those sounds. I mean, you could do the rewire, but the rewire gets to be really troublesome once you get past like 20 tracks and start building your stacked orchestra. It comes to a point where you're like, I can't keep up with it. The other thing I wanted to talk about, so that kind of, we're talking about like helping you kind of find more movement in these passages. When we were talking about arranging, what we get to do with these is, if we wanted to say, all right, well, we love this passage, let's go ahead and dump this into the horns. Let me actually remove what's there. And kind of throw some of these parts, it's kind of the idea that we're not fixed 100% to exactly where we originally created them for that to be their landing place. So you kind of try some experimenting with other parts. So this basically just needs to drop the octave. It's a little too high, so we're just going to pull this over. -12. Oops. So we see. Let's say we wanted to take that. I kind of like this low part, this part here. Maybe we could steal this, throw this down below. that's why, because we didn't give it an arco. Let's see. Switch this one over to arco real quick. I mean, you kind of see where I'm going with this, right? Just really using a lot of this to kind of get us that sound. So I'm just going to right-click this and change this to a different instrument. Browse instruments, go back to the orchestra sound bank, strings, basses, give me something. Let's try Marcato. There we go. I like it. Where are we at? Okay. All right, so let's open that up with everybody else. There we go. Sorry, getting a little chaotic, but you kind of see how by throwing these in different parts, it kind of helps us out. Now, one thing I'm going to talk about in addition to this is something called modulation. And modulation, I'm going to dump, let's see, let's say we kind of just focus on what's here with the movement we just did in these other parts. And we'll take some of this stuff out. Oops. Oh, that's actually not going to matter. So. Let's say we do. So I'm trying to figure out where I want to go here. Let's do viola 2. No, we'll do it in violin 2. So I'm going to right click this, change the instrument to violin, but get something a little more. Let's go with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a little melody here. So sorry, I was all over the place. Let me do that. Now to figure out where we're at. So. So let's say we decided that was our melody that we're just going to repeat over and over again. What we're going to do is I'm going to so check out how this works out. So a lot of times this is basically how you would do this. So your stacking kind of looks like this. Oh, sorry, I keep forgetting I need to save this. All right, so it goes, you hear the stack essentially as it goes. So you get your first layered part, your movement part in. Actually, gonna get rid of these. And then it's just gonna repeat. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bump these back. So there. There we go. And then chill. Or the bases, I'm sorry. Put back. So basically this gets to repeat, all right? Actually, let's take this all the way out for now. Okay, so notice we repeat the phrase. What I'm going to do is the first time around, you'll hear the first melody play, okay? The second time around, you're going to hear the first melody play, and I'm just going to add a harmony. But in order to do that, I'm going to copy, paste, and throw it to a different part, like this viola 1. Let me go up to, actually I just need to change the racks so that these are in and XTs on viola 1. You follow me so far?
Yeah, and where you gonna pitch shift it?
Yeah, essentially I'm just going to augment it. Oops. Keep forgetting I didn't know what this was. Okay. So what I'm going to do is this is literally just going to be the same part, but I'm going to augment it. You can do it in two ways. You can either use the tool window and detune it by transposing, or what you could do is you could just double click it.
Drag them down to the...
Essentially, yeah, because even when you do transpose these, they're not going to be perfect harmonies because of the scale. So you'll have to augment some of them anyway. Sorry. Let's see. Oh, hold on. That start off in the right spot. All right, so notice these steps are off, so I'm just going to go. I can hear because of the scale. Hey, what's up? No, not at all. Sorry, redo that last note. There we go. Sorry, I need a better note on that.
So you can't stack more than 2 bars because with the string instruments you're only playing 1 string at a time.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Sometimes you can play 2 at a time.
They can.
Just have to be close enough.
Yeah, it's just a lot of times you don't want to. I mean, you can give them that. It's just it's a little fluid, a little more fluid than to not. But basically, what we're doing. Okay, so far you see, I went in and added a harmony. Once I add this harmony in, though, what I get to do is I can technically go in and start layering this on different parts. So I could add this harmony. Somebody else could play this, like the cello could play this harmony an octave down. Maybe when we get into the stacking, maybe everybody goes one more time. So let's say, because these are the parts I'm using, I'm just going to go copy paste this guy. And maybe we go copy paste paste on these guys. The third time around, we're just solidifying this, but I'm going to go ahead and copy paste and drop these guys down into the let's say cello and bass parts. Sorry, there's a bunch of cellos in this version. So cello and bass parts. And of course, I'm just going to easily use the tool window, right? So you see now I'm just stacking these so that by the time we get to the fourth time around, so the first time around it's solo. Oh, oops, sorry, I'm a phrase off. That next time around, it should have gone like this. Sorry, these are just slow. They're kind of slow. And that one note sounds really weird. They're just kind of slow reporting. And then once you go in on the rack and you change this, that cello and bass to something more interesting. So what's going to happen is once you've got your idea mapped out, what I'd like for you to work on this week is working on your arrangements, so stacking out more parts in a more like spread version like that, so you're duplicating some of your parts between other parts. So, you know, even if you only have two main lines, but you're kind of distributing that throughout. And in addition to that, though, taking that and then, we might have to go Marcotte with this one. Modulating it. And the modulation process essentially goes like this. So. The modulation process essentially is like this, where modulation basically means we're going to use the same idea and we're just going to shift it tonally. So you can do it in several different ways, and you can switch out parts and who's doing what, but a very easy way to do the modulation is just take everybody that's there and transpose them, but instead of transposing them by like a full octave or something to that effect, you're going to transpose them by key. So you could take each one of these groups. I'm just going to take them all here as we go. A couple different modulation tricks. One of them is dropping everything a third. And actually it would be, I think, -5. Let's try this. Here I'd shift it. And let's go up a third. Actually a second. And you could do these, what a lot of orchestrators will do is they'll only do these for short spans of time. So it's not like they're going to hang out in it for very long. They're going to use the modulation to kind of be a shifting to take us into a direction. So notice the shift here. Now there's a couple ways to do this. You could do it where everybody moves together, or you could also do it, we could easily do it this way so that the melody just repeats even though what's happening actually changes. So I'm actually just going to mute these for a second. Just mute these for a second. And there might need to be a small change. The melody didn't change. It's literally the same. But the underneath, the arpeggiators. Now, what we'd have to do to fit this one, because of the shift. So watch out how this works. So like literally this is this part, this lead line, this where is it? Sorry. It doesn't change in the second passage here when the shift happens for modulation. And it makes it different. But the third one it'll have to change. And what we'll do is instead, so this was the melody before. Half step. In the next one, because of the shift, it's got to go to whole steps instead of going. There. It's going to have to go like a minor. So I think it's going to have to drop this one and the one below it. So it'll actually go. Might just alter that last note. I'll keep that half step then. And then we could go up. I think in that last one, we could start on the ending note and have that be the last shift and then go back. So this will be fun. And all this modulation is it literally is just a shifting of the tonal center. So all I need to do is in my last spread here, I think we're just going to go copy paste. I just need to figure out what key we're going to be in here. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay, we actually kept it. So what we did is so that's the thing is with modulation, you can play around with who gets shifted from where. So what I did with it is that bum, 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 the arpeggiated part is shifting the first two phrases. It shifts and changes and it modulates while the lead part of the melody stays the same. On the third section, they both have to shift because it kind of creates a minor form for the lead scalarly. And what happens is on the fourth one, it shifts one more time, and on the fifth one, it instead of having the melody stay and the arpeggios change, we're going to have the arpeggios stay. And we're only going to change the melody and the modulation. So, like as it's going, this is where we started. We can just roll it from the top. So we establish a key. And then bring in a harmony. So there's the first modulation. Here's the second. And this one they switch. And then literally you really could just write it so that it goes back and it ends where it starts. This viola's killing me though. It's too. There's no marcato for this.
Because I have to pick my son up from school like
Okay.
2.
You got it. I know we're pretty much there. So I think what we want to do is I would like for you to basically what I would like for you to do is you can either use the project that you already did, or you can create a new one. And instead of it's going to be the same length of time that I want, but instead of having it stay in the same key the whole time, I want you to modulate 3 times. And does that make sense? Like I want you to go in and make the modulation for it 3 times. And then kind of if you want to use, I mean, it would be really cool if you could come up with these kind of arpeggiated phrases by using the arpeggiator. Does that make sense?
Yeah, if you give me this video, I'd be able to figure it out.
Put it together? Awesome.
It's just difficult without videos. It's fucking